Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. This is the Small Business Solutions Series workshop we do on a monthly basis. So thank you all for being here. Very excited about this program. But before that, I would like to recognize and thank our 2025 Small Business Solutions Series sponsor, David Yasa, with the Growth Coach of Greater Portland. David, thank you very much for being here with us today. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, thank you, Deanna. I just want to share my screen for one uh, minute, if that's okay.
Yeah, just let me figure out how to make that happen. I changed a view. That should work for you.
Yep,
Perfect.
it did work for me. Um, so as you all may know, I am a business coach. I help businesses, I help my clients to know where they are at and where they want to be, and then we walk that journey of growth through structured processes. And one of the first things that I do with my clients is something called the strategic, or what I call the strategic mindset process. Um, I think for every business in the world, they need to do these five things if they want to be successful. The first thing is to face the reality, and not only their public reality. It's not how they're going to face the world and how the world sees them. It's also their private reality, what the company is from the inside. It's very important for businesses to know where they really are at when it comes to the revenue, expenses, bottom line, employees, processes, everything. And then second thing I do with them is self-knowledge. I help them know what they're capable of. Lots of people focus mainly on improving what they're not good at. I say to my clients, no, we need to focus on what we're really good at and capitalize on it. Third thing is managing the relationships. And relationship management is not only relationship management with the outer world, it's relationship management with all stakeholders, with employees, referral partners, clients, vendors, everybody in the system. The fourth one is managing priorities. People try to manage their time. That's yeah, your calendar manages your time. What you really need to manage is your priorities. And then once we do that, we redefine the vision and goals. The vision and goals are your destination, the company's destination. Redefining them is based on what we did before that, and then we decide on where we're heading and how we're going to head there through different strategies. And that's what I do with my clients. Thank you, Deanna. Back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Anyone that has spent time with you in coaching just gives rave reviews. So I would encourage anyone that's interested in, if they have challenges, if they want to take advantage of opportunities, just meet with David and see if it's a good fit and see if there's an opportunity for him to help support you. Because I know you're making a difference with your clients. So thank you for that. So now I'm excited to introduce our program today. Our program today is the state of traditional media, whether it's print, radio, TV, and mail. And oftentimes I hear from small businesses, gosh, I need more customers. And maybe there's a channel of media that you're not using that you can learn more about and I guess get a better understanding of how it's being used. And this is what this program is about. And Ken Vreed, who is the Partnership Development Manager for Little Bird Media Solutions, is here with us today to walk us through all of these different traditional media channels and to give us some input and ideas around how they're being used, if they're still being used, and if there's an opportunity for you to stand out amongst your competition. So Ken, the floor is yours, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Deanna, and thank you, David, for the sponsorship. I'm Ken Vreed, and like she said, I'm with Little Bird Media Solutions. I started my advertising journey in 1999 at a small local radio station called Smooth Jazz 106.7 KKJZ. I started learning chops. I majored in journalism at University of Portland, and I really always liked the spoken word, so I was drawn to this position, and I've been on that journey ever since. It's taken me through out-of-home companies, radio companies, event, sports sponsorship, television, and a lot of internal corporate communications, public relations, etc. As you kind of develop partnerships with different businesses around in the area. Excuse my cat. If they come to trust you, they rely on you to use all your different resources. So let's dive into a little bit of what's been happening in the last, at least in my time in media. Share. And from beginning. So traditional media has been declining. When I started in media in 1999, I was given a yellow pages and a telephone, and 22 salespeople were using one connected computer in a hallway. It wasn't the everyday, you had a phone was a computer, you had a computer with you at all times, laptop, etc. The advent of digital technology, the first ad, like I said in the release, was in early 90s, and today almost 80% of advertising spending goes to digital. A lot of that is because it's trackable. It provides you immediate feedback. But technology, as it gets more and more connected, that's disrupting all these traditional screens, television stations, radio stations, etc. It feels digital advertising feels less risky. Early in my career, it often referred to like radio and television advertising as almost being a kind of a faith-based advertising decision. You got some word of mouth confirmation that your ads were being seen and heard, but it was really difficult to track everything because you were relying on top of mind awareness, a recall from the customer to give you feedback. Things that disrupt like television and radio is that for a long time you could avoid ads. People give me 1 second to stop this. I didn't think this was going to happen. 1 second. It's an old cat.
We're cat people. No problem.
My bad. So people like that they could avoid ads and they could get all their content, right? And didn't have to listen to a mattress store that they didn't want to hear from, or a furniture retailer having a weekend sale because they're not in the market for it. Declining attention spans. I mean, we're seeing this, especially, as a dad of two, I'm seeing this in my children on a nonstop basis. They can't watch anything that's longer than 45 seconds. Movies, the Disney movies that we watched as children, that they watched as children even 10 years ago, they can't sit for more than 10 minutes. It's a little disturbing, but it's the new norm. We're in a demand culture. People want what they want almost immediately. This is reasons why big e-commerce platforms like Amazon or Walmart or any of them, I buy it today, I get it tomorrow. Trust in the traditional landscape sometimes has diminished over the years. You'll see the consolidation in television, radio, out-of-home companies where big corporate entities are buying up small locally owned products and they're hubbing their content. So for example, you'll have radio stations that are on in 45 markets, but they'll just be one host from LA, and they're not talking about your neighborhood anymore or your city. They're just talking about the subject matter of what's new in hip hop or news talk. It's become kind of unlocalized with the exception of some local news. And fragmented media landscape. It was fragmented when I first started in radio in '99. There was 45 local radio stations. If you decided you wanted to do a radio campaign, you were picking 1, 2, maybe 3 that made sense for your customer base. But now it's almost limitless. And it gets hard to pick between 1,000 things. So let's talk about local radio first. This is kind of where I started, and it's always been the same thing. The power of radio is that it can develop an image in your mind. You can develop your brand with the help of the brain rather than having to see anything. And sometimes that's more vivid. It's also a storytelling format. So you get the opportunity to really convey something, deeper. We're a society of storytellers in our history. And you can really generate like a lean in mental brand position with audio. So who's listening? Well, it depends on the station format, and there's a lot to pick from. There's radio's kind of, there's something for everybody out there. Country music, very popular. Hip hop music, very popular. News talk, that's all talk formats. News talk and sports formats. Those are what we call lean in formats. People are actively listening to those for that information, whether that information is relevant to what's happening in their community or, politically leaning, right? There's certainly a lot of stations out there that align with the personal brand of politics of the consumers. There tend to be talk radio station in particular tends to be unbothered by advertising. It's kind of meets their expectation of use, right? If you grew up listening to radio, you're probably still listening to radio because it's running about the same amount of commercials. Anyone in the broadcast area, and I'll show you a broadcast area. The broadcast area is pretty tremendous out of Portland. It covers most of Southwest Washington, goes all the way out to the coast, up 84, and most of all of everything cuts off right before Eugene, television and radio. That's a different FCC area. One of the biggest radio stations in town is actually Oregon Public Broadcasting. Now they don't allow like traditional advertising. They mostly do sponsorships. But this has one of the largest audience bases of any station in the area. It's not rated by Nielsen. Nielsen does the ratings for our market because it is registered as a not-for-profit, and they don't also pay the subscription fees. But it's a very good place to be because it is hyper-local, and it's talking about what's happening in your backyard. So where are they listening? I mean, radios left our homes probably in the early 2000s. That a lot of those things disappeared. So it's still mostly in the car, and the manufacturers are still making AM and FM. Although some, like for example, Tesla only has an FM radio, and you have to download an app for that to get the FM feed. But all the major manufacturers are still putting AM and FM radios in vehicles. They're listening on apps. However, apps are a different commercial feed than the traditional over-the-air broadcast. So they're loading that with, streaming audio is what it's called. And there's actually a remarkable amount of secondary listening happening in business settings, retail business settings, delis, cafes, restaurants. They're frequently playing the radio because they don't want to pay the licensing fees that ASCAP comes out and wants them to pay if they're playing, licensed music. So they listen because they're fans of a music genre. They're fans of a particular brand of news. And the biggest part is the relationships they have with the host. Now, that was always a big differentiator before consolidation in the media industry, was the personalities. You would see these people out at things in your community, radio station promotional stops, remote broadcasts, even introducing introducing musicians at concerts and things of that nature. And they feel like it's like a personal relationship there. Probably nobody has a bigger fan base than Lars Larson of KXL News Radio. I mean, he's been on for a couple of decades, and he he's just a familiar face. You know, he started in television, then he moved to radio, and he built a big, huge fan base. So some opportunities inside local radio that are pretty unique to radio. Endorsements. So every station, almost every station, has at least one day part that is hosted by a local personality, and you can pay them to endorse your product. You've probably all heard this at one point or another. If you have listened to KXL, almost every Lars Larson voice spot is an endorsement. I mean, he must have 15 or 16 endorsements, and the advertisers use them month after month, year after year, because it works. It's this is the original word of mouth forum. And when he tells his fan base to activate at a particular retailer, it works. Contesting. Now, television doesn't really do contesting. There's a lot of contesting opportunities on digital, but radio has always been was the first active contesting and promotions type of medium. You know, they're always doing ticket giveaways, trip giveaways, forced listening promotions where they're trying to get you to hang on to their radio station for a longer amount of time, stay listening for a longer amount of time, which is a boost to ratings. But, you know, if you do that and you call in, you could win $1,000 or a trip to Hawaii or something like that in partnership with a sponsor. Radio stations do a lot of cause marketing, toy drives, school supply drives, fundraising. In some instances, you can even do, like, I don't know, when I was a sales manager at the Wolf, we would do a day-long phone-a-thon with Children's Hospital, just doing fundraising in between the music. We had a bank of people up there answering phones all day, and then we would read out all the donors during the live on air during the broadcast. Free production. So you can go to a radio station with an idea. Their copywriters will help you. Their producers will design it. You're only paying for the advertising, which I always like that, because I like the money to go to advertising rather than, you know, the production of it. More spots, more chances to reach more people. And jingles. Jingles are like a earworm. I don't know if you guys ever heard this one. It's not too late to sleep like a baby. So I worked with them from 2002 to 2012, and watched them grow from a single retail location to 12 retail locations, grossing $45 million. And didn't really matter so much what was said in the spot. You know, it was a sale. It was a mattress store. There was a sale every weekend. Everything was always on sale. Okay. But it has a way of really earning a piece of their mind, so that when they get to the consideration portion of their consumer purchase cycle, you're like one of the top three. And really, all of these traditional mediums were all doing the same thing. It's kind of SEO for the human brain, if that makes it kind of easier to understand. If you don't get consideration, you don't have a chance at the business. There's multiple lengths of spots. So depending on your budget and your messaging, you don't need a minute-long commercial. You maybe don't need a 30-second commercial. You could do a 15 or a 10-second or even a 5-second sponsorship, just getting your name out there repeatedly over the long term, so you can earn that top-of-mind awareness. There's still like 44 radio stations. They're operated by 3 commercial groups in town, largely. Alpha Broadcasting, Odyssey Broadcasting, and iHeart. They all offer 7 stations per group, I believe. And of course, when you talk with them, they're going to lead with streaming audio, but there's a lot of loyalty to these stations. They have a lot of presence over the long term. So let's talk about local television. Television's had a lot of consolidation as well. Streaming has been a large interrupter, and there's a few things we'll just skip to the most watched. News, live sports, and live programming. So like award shows, Golden Globe shows, things that are happening in real time. News is because it's what's happening in your backyard. People want to be informed. Largely it's led by crime news, but there's a lot of good news in there as well. Live sports, television owned live sports for decades. And there's been some movement on that in the last couple of years with new partnerships with, streaming providers like Amazon. Or we even saw the one most recently with the Trailblazers going to Channel 2, but also having a streaming partner feed on the side. Live people don't want to watch the game after it's done. They want to watch it as it's being done. The audiences for television tend to be kind of 45 plus. They're not drawing in a new, younger fan base so much. It's the people that were always watching TV or that grew up accustomed to TV. So in that way, those people that are viewing are really kind of unbothered by advertising. They expect it, right? They expect 4 breaks during their 30-minute news broadcast. And they're local because largely over the air can only reach local. They're watching at home. Some are watching with rabbit ears. And there was a big shift to digital broadcast 5 years ago, I believe. So it's a little bit crisper. They're also watching in apps. Again, on the streaming apps, if you're watching a TV station, you're looking at a different commercial feed. So you would often have to buy over the air as well as the streaming app. And it's free. That free still means something when it comes to entertainment. The opportunities inside TV that are kind of lesser known are lifestyle shows, which I've watched AM Northwest over the years. Good Day Oregon does lifestyle features. Hello Rose City on KGW. So these are kind of like advertorials, typically that are reasonably priced. And they run not in news slots, not morning or afternoon. They usually run kind of like 9, 10, 11 o'clock. But what's brilliant about these is that you get 5 minutes to tell your story with a locally known television personality. So you get some borrowed imagery, some borrowed credibility from that. You also get the video when you're done with it. And the video can be very powerful within websites, on your website. It kind of looks like an endorsement. You can use it in your social media feeds for content. And they're pretty reasonable. Like I know we use these often for our clients. It's like $1,500 to go down to their studio, sit at their set. For another $200 or $300, they'll come out to your business and they'll do a full walk around. You lay out the whole shoot. You can show them what you're inviting them to. It's pretty cool. One part of television that I really liked is in content sponsorships. So like you'll see if you're watching morning news, scrolling weather bug across the bottom. And then it's got somebody's logo, and then it slides across with that person's slug line, their kind of brand position. What I love about these is because it's in content, that ad is in both the streaming version of the broadcast as well as the over-the-air version. And they have a variety of these. There's news, there's traffic, there's seasonal sponsorships. Of course, you've probably all seen the cutaway sponsorships, like, for example, Chinook Winds has a few where they show the beach. Why would Chinook Winds like that? Well, they want you to know they're right next to the ocean, regardless if you're sitting inside playing slot machines. Every local television station has multiple cause marketing initiatives. So toy drives, school drives, food drives. And these are really meaningful. Fans of the TV stations turn up for these to donate. They'll go distribute all the boxes for collection. They work in a wide variety of ways, and it's works because I mean I remember the last one I did at KGW, we raised like $800,000 for school supply, and we had I think over 5,000 families helped, assisted with Christmas toys. And each station is doing these things, and getting associated just, brings a lot of positivity to your brand. It also exposes you to co-sponsors and allows for development of further partnerships beyond that. A lot of area companies that sponsor these things do work together on other things. Again, production at television is really reasonable. A lot of times, if you're booking a contract longer than 3 months, they'll provide you free production. Come out, shoot your spot, edit it. They'll do updates. The lengths of commercials available within TV are 5-second IDs with just your brand on them, 10s, 15s, 30s, 60s. You can do 2 minutes, which is what a lot of direct response advertisers do. You've probably seen people like Renewal by Anderson used to run a lot of 2-minute commercials, trying to book leads and appointments for their sales teams. One great opportunity is that since they're doing all the local news, they get a lot of website traffic. And every station allows for geo-targeted traffic advertising within their geo-targeted advertising within their websites, and they also have sponsorships within the websites as well. And they're constantly driving people to web. Get more of the story here. Check out the link and details at kgw.com or katu.com. And tactics that I like in television for generating awareness, I like short form and high frequency. So I like many instances of spots running with short messages that generate interest and awareness in the advertiser. And I like that because it can be done pretty cheaply. Just 2 years ago, I was selling 30-second spots in morning news for $50 a spot, which 6-7 years ago, that would have been $200 a spot. Now the audience sizes are, relatively smaller, but it's still 20, 30,000 people tuned in, starting their day, hearing about you, seeing you in an active capacity. So here's the broadcast area for all the metro area TV and radio stations. So you can see it goes up to Astoria, down to Lincoln City, into Corvallis, Lebanon, up 84. The population of this area is somewhere near 3.5 million people. Of course, a little over 2 million in the Portland metro area, plus the Southwest Washington. So you're covering a large area. Now, if you're a single location business and you're serving an immediate geo, maybe not the best opportunity for you. But if you have plans for growth, more locations, you have an e-commerce capacity, these are all potential customers for your future or current. So if you can get them to web and get them to engage with you. So billboards, lots of billboard opportunities around. And when I say billboards, I mean large format billboards, buses, bus shelters, benches, digital boards, wallscapes, and even the kind of the lawn signs that people are putting up. These are, they're seeing commuters, they're seeing pedestrians, and they're commonly used for branding and awareness, directional advertising, this way too, turn here to get to, especially if a business is located at kind of a confusing intersection or has the view of their business obstructed by something. It's unavoidable. It's part of the landscape. We're always, as drivers, we're always scanning the landscape for safety, and they make a strong visual impression. What I like about billboards is you can get really creative with them, and not all impressions are created equal. So you can see like this example of Maker's Mark pouring out into a semi truck. These are what they call extensions. So it's outside of the just normal frame. it jumps out a little bit different than even say the Coke ad right next to it, right? Because it's making your mind think of something active. It's like, oh, that's great. It catches your attention. Um, I like e-boards because they every 6 seconds they change advertiser. So the motion is drawing the eye. The motion alone is drawing the eye. But they're very bright, very vivid. They look kind of almost like a glossy magazine ad on the side of the road. They'll also do free production with long-term agreements. And by long-term, I mean annual. Billboards bill a little bit differently. They don't bill on a calendar month. They bill on a 4-week schedule. So there's 13 periods in a billboard year. And while being a traditional media, they've always allowed for a geographic targeting, right? You're buying billboards near your business, within your immediate service area, drawing attention to the services or products that you're offering in there. There's a moratorium on new billboards in the city of Portland. And if you want to put up an e-board, you have to convert a certain amount of static traditional boards in order to do that. But when you're out driving about, look about like, the bus benches at high traffic intersection, the bus shelters at high traffic intersections. These things offer a lot of value for the amount of impressions. And then you think about the commute time in Portland. It's been a while since I checked it out, but I know in 2018, before the pandemic, we were pushing a 32-minute average commute. So that drove a lot of time on the road, a lot of exposures to out of home. It was also actually also driving a lot of listening to radio because you're there for an extended amount of time. Direct mail is a form of traditional media that's been kind of interesting. It too suffered a decline with the advent of digital advertising, especially like email marketing. But the Postal Service is actually indicating that there's been an increase in the last couple of years. And they're kind of attributing it to the strong ROI that it's delivering, as printing costs and mailing costs and creative costs have gone down, right? You can jump on Canva, you can make a postcard size ad in almost no time at all. You send it in and they'll mail it out for you. So if you're down to this is the low end, 7 cents per piece, and you're selling something that has a good margin and a high entry point, it can deliver a tremendous ROI. The other brilliant thing about direct mail is that you can pick specific zip codes that you want to reach, depending on the services. So if let's say you're an HVAC company, and you know that a certain neighborhood was built in the early 80s, and they're probably needing a new heating and air conditioner. You can reach those specific neighborhoods saying, hey, if you haven't changed yet, good for you, but you're really going to be due, and I'm going to be here to help you. The other part people are kind of getting back to it's unavoidable in your mailbox, right? You're actually touching the piece. Email is not quite the same. Email actually, you're lucky to have a 15% open rate on an email. Email marketing is awesome as well. But when it's in your hand, you look at it a little different. And when it's coming from your mailbox, you may look at it for a second and toss it, but you still got that impression to that delivered party. And then probably the hardest hit by the advent of digital marketing is regional newspapers. When I entered the business in 1999, the Oregonian was a $600 million a year business. They're somewhere around 50 to 60 million these days. Now, they serve the state. They serve a really broad area. And of course, they allow geo advertising. I mean, they're not going to run ads for businesses in Medford in Portland. But they had a tremendous circulation and a secondary circulation as well, because there were newspapers everywhere. Now they're down to 4-day delivery, And Sunday newspaper, their biggest issue, right, is 156,000. Now, on the flip side of that, Oregon Live is like one of the top 5 trafficked websites in the state. It does require a subscription, but there's still opportunities for the older audiences that won't give up having a paper in their hands and reading through it. The other thing about Oregonian is they're very good at category themed advertising, especially in like home building, automotive sector, insurance. They'll put out special publications that are timed thematically. Like you may get a insert about medical insurance around re-enrollment period. You'll get automotive piece around the time of the auto show when all the new year models are running out. So if you're an auto dealer or a used car dealer or somebody in any kind of related collision, repair, etc. category, you're going to be in front of the right audiences in these thematic special publications. Community newspapers, that's a free product, and people again like free. And it's a geo-targeted product because it's all about your neighborhood. There's, Pamplin recently sold, but I think they have 13 papers for the Portland metro area. And the ads are affordable in comparison when compared to the size of the distribution and the ease of that resident being able to use your services. So the opportunities there, people still trust the newspaper. There's so many ad sizes, full page to tile ad. Again, I always like to err on the frequency of ad. I want an ad on as many pages as I can get as they flip through it. And they're not intrusive. People, when you're reading, you're in a kind of a different state of mind. So you're a more engaged person. And a lot of them will offer advertorials as well. So we've all seen them, we've all read them. It's basically saying, it's a feature benefit statement that's a long narrative of why you need, want, or should consider when you're in the market X product or service. And then earned media public relations. So this used to be a much harder business, and it's really kind of a service. And I guess I didn't update this, so I'm just going to go off the flow here. There's more media outlets than ever, and there's more media outlets need content. So when you're out pitching a story that you want coverage, and you want to get into somebody's platform, there's probably a better chance to get coverage or exposure because there's so many. Now, how do you track them down? We have a pretty extensive list of media contests, both traditional and digital. And you have to have something that they think their audience is going to want to hear. Whether that's, a podcast, a radio station, a television station, a YouTube blogger. There's so many opportunities within this. Now it's mostly sweat equity, right? Because you're not paying somebody to be in their thing. You're convincing them that the story fits the format of their platform and will help them grow and engage new listeners or users or viewers. So there's some real basics regardless of media type, whether it's digital, traditional. At the end of the day, it really boils down to, I've been saying this for years and it's always been true, the right message, the right amount of times to the right audience. The message is probably the most critical portion of that. You want to be very clear and concise in what that expectation will be for the end user. And then you need to hammer that softly into their brain so that you get to the consideration point when they come into the market for that. All of your advertising supports all of the other advertising. Not all of it is digital, is always trackable, right? You get immediate feedback on what's happening on those campaigns. You don't get such immediate feedback from radio, television, earned media. It's just harder to track because it's based on human recall. We've all probably been on websites that said, "How did you hear about us?" And then they have a drop-down menu, and people pick one. And I can't tell you, I've probably been in 100 meetings with business owners that said, they said they saw me on television, but I've never bought a television spot. They said they heard me on the radio, but I've never had a radio spot. I don't have a Facebook profile, but people keep saying they found me on Facebook. When it's based on human recall, it's you got to give it a wide kind of berth of because it's not technologically trackable. Multiple touch points across different mediums. Like I said before, all advertising supports the other advertising, but you want to be in front of the customer on their consumer journey. And that might be an engagement with a billboard, a piece of mail when you go home and you go to your mailbox, and all of a sudden you now have a postcard from that same advertiser. Maybe you go check your Gmail account at the end of the day, and there's another message, right? The impressions are cumulative. So what you end up getting is a little piece of real estate in that person's mind. I have always kind of called top of mind awareness like the original SEO, right? People pay lots of money to get to the top of the search at Google. But if you have branded your consumer group in the right way, you can skip the search engine because you've already programmed their brain. Instead of them searching for your business category, they're searching for you. And that's a competitive advantage that can really pay off. With regard to advertising, I always believe in fly the flag. Every day you show up to your store, every day you show up to your business, and you turn the open sign on. I'm ready. I'm here. I'm doing it. Your advertising should be out there telling people you're ready to engage with them. Now, I know budgets vary depending on what kind of business you're in, but there's always something that you can be doing to be building your brand. And it can be passive, it can be active, but it should happen like on almost daily basis. Somebody should be responsible for putting one thing out there, like every day if possible. A lot of times with advertising campaign, you can set it and then forget it, right? You can put in, I've done a lot of campaigns where an advertiser will buy an annual, they book a year-long plan, and then they just go work in their business. And then you take a temperature check every 30 days. What's working, what's not working. And digital media is great because it gives immediate feedback. It's a little bit like the Wild West still. There's so many providers, there's so many specialists, and you can sometimes feel like you're missing out on one tactic or another. But sticking with a tactic for a longer term typically pays off quicker. Pays off in the end. Jumping in and jumping out, that's a waste of money, in my opinion. Flying the flag and telling people you're ready to help them is the way to go. So that's kind of my overview of traditional media. I'd welcome any questions. If you want to talk specifically about your situation, there's my email address and phone number. Talking is always free. I've at this point in my career, I've probably worked directly with over 1,000 local area businesses. And I've been in almost every sector of industry: recruitment, retail, services, etc. Any questions?
I just want to say that some of my clients are working with your company, Ken, and the results they're getting are really good.
Oh,
You
good.
guys, I'm sorry?
That's great. I love to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah, our team cumulatively we have over 160 years experience working in the Portland area.
your team was actually shooting um, for one of my clients in my house the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's your client?
Best Owner Direct.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dan. So you probably met Danielle.
I was not there.
Oh, okay.
I was not there.
Nice. Well, we appreciate you letting us use your home as a set. Um, I've been in a number of our clients' commercials. One of Portland window covering spot with myself and my daughters has been running the last couple of years, and it sometimes surprises me how frequently I get recognized. And I'm like, okay, so there's another more proof that television works.
Yeah, that was not television, but yeah, I mean we have some common connections.
Yeah. Well, we work with some other chamber members. We're the agency of record for Dick's Auto Group, all four of their stores. We do sports marketing as well. So we're the tournament director for the Portland Classic LPGA tournament. And the Standard, which is one of the big sports sponsors of the chamber, is the title sponsor of our golf tournament out there. That's being played the week of 8/11 for the 54th time. It's the longest running women's professional golf tournament on the LPGA Tour. It's a very cool event.
Other questions for Ken? He's a wealth of knowledge regarding marketing and how to spend your dollars and where to spend your dollars. So if you have a question, now's your time.
Or feel
Well,
free to
now I
email me or call.
understand. Now I understand why I keep getting those Social Security Medicare ads on TV. Apparently, the old people are the only ones watching it.
AARP was one of the really big advertisers at all the local television stations. It's behavioral in nature, right? You grew up with it. It's there. You know how to work it. My kids couldn't. I don't even think my kids could figure out how to get onto live broadcast television.
Well, Ken, I know you mentioned rabbit ears, and for some of the younger folks on our call today, those aren't real rabbit ears. So, in case you're concerned about the health and well-being of the rabbits, I hadn't heard that term in a long time. So, I do have a question. If I'm a small business, limited marketing dollars, what would be your best advice for, a portfolio or a mix that I would think about in terms of marketing that would include a bit of digital, but maybe some of these other more traditional modes or channels? What would be that mix that I should look at?
So, I mean, I would look at maybe community newspaper. I'm just gonna assume a few things. Let's say you're a retail business and you have a 3-mile service area. So you're going to look for opportunities to reach the neighborhoods, your neighbors, be part of your community. That's kind of always the starting point for a small business. Get clients that are really convenient. You can do things faster and you can scale quicker. So I would look at probably things that would support your social media, right? Growing your social media is cheap or a sweat equity type of product. And then I would look at services that allow for geo-targeting. So like community newspaper, maybe a postcard, digital email. I like digital email a lot. I mean, you can send 1,000 emails for $20. If there's 40,000 residents in your immediate service area, you're looking at $400 to get into their inbox. And even with like open rates, like I said, within that 10 to 15% range, if you got 4,000 people to look at your email and know about your business, and you converted, depending on what your average ticket sale is, most of the time you have to convert a low number of those opens into clients to deliver a positive ROI.
Thank you. I'm also.
Go ahead. Oh, I was thinking another thing I like small scale outdoor. I like bus benches. I like shelters, especially near busy roads. That yes, they get graffiti, they get tagged. The companies will come out and clean those, but some of these are like $150 for 4 weeks. You could get a bus shelter for usually $300-400 for 4 weeks, and it never turns off, right? It's on 24/7 for that 4 week period. The design a lot of the times is going to be cheap or free. And it's right in your immediate service area as well.
Ken, would you recommend that if you're doing some of these like advertising in community newspapers or things like that, to offer a discount or a code or something to sort of get maybe customers to jump if they
Yeah,
haven't?
so as a new business, sometimes it makes sense to offer an entry, first time customer discount. I'm actually doing that right now with a pet store client over in Tualatin. We're doing a 25% off grooming. They literally opened up 4 weeks ago. So we're trying to establish a client base, and then get those people in the door and then sell them a subscription model for grooming services for their pet. So I like an intro offer, but I've never really been a big fan of competing on price, because once you start discounting, sometimes that becomes part of the expectation. And you're not there to sell a discounted service all the time, right? This is
Yeah,
kind of like Groupon. You think about Groupon. Groupon was insane. That was a lot of businesses went out of business because they did a discounted price. And you know, and Groupon made a killing because a lot of them didn't get redeemed. Plus they got the profit share. So they're kind of they were a predatory partner for a lot of small retail businesses. Um, but for a limited time, yes, I think there can be some discounting, just because it's a part of client acquisition.
yeah. From my point of view, and correct me, Ken, I suggest I agree with you. Discounting is not the best way. Specials are okay, and I would prefer giving something for free if client buys instead of discounting,
Yeah,
like a
bring value to the
giveaway.
transaction.
Yes, yes, a giveaway, and it has to be for a limited time, and it has to be related to a goal, like maybe a revenue goal for that month, or number of new clients that you're trying to bring on board, and so on.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I've done situations where, first 200 people get X added value. So it's like your product, your inventory isn't, discounted across the board. Now you have 200 people out there with that product or service. That's all those people with their word of mouth advertising, can bring value to, they're like, wow, I got a great deal, but I would, even if it was full price, I would still pay for it. And that's the end goal of all that.
Any final questions for Ken? Comments, anything? Well, thank you, Ken, so much. Great information, a wealth of information. Really sort of helped to stimulate my thinking about those different forms of marketing and the different channels of still available and still absolutely relevant to today's market. So really appreciate that. Want to thank David Yassa with the growth coach of Portland Metropolitan as well. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next month for our Small Business Solutions series. Have a great rest of your day.